So today we have as a guest Air Commodore retired Velayudhan Nair, known popularly as KNV Nair. He became a wing commander in 91, group captain in 97, Air Commodore in 2005. I've got the dates right, sir?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And you were a cadet of the NDA.
Absolutely right.
Right. That was 1st December 1970.
I passed out in 70 years.
70, yeah. So you have also got the BSM, right? This the Seva medal.
That's correct.
That is for exemplary, great, good service. And also, you were completely single-handedly. They say that you brought in the peacekeeping force from operating in Sri Lanka.
Well, I won't say single-handedly, but I used to be the officer on the ground responsible for sending and bringing back people from the island. Yes, during that IPKF operations.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing which I never knew was you have a musical streak in you. You are the Air Warrior Symphony Concert. You coordinated.
I'm surprised from where you picked that up, but yes. I was posted to Air Headquarters as Joint Director Ceremonials, and as part of the duty, the then Air Chief Marshal Krishnaswamy, he wanted the Air Force band to be popularized in a very different manner than what was going on. So he decided to have a first ever Air Warrior concert in Siri Fort in Delhi, which was a magnum opus, which was a big show.
Right.
And so I was coordinating that, yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you guided a stricken aircraft across the deserts and made it land safely.
I don't remember the year exactly. Probably it is 83 or 82. I'm not sure. I was on an exercise in the deserts, and I was the officer in charge of a divisional air defense center. And my responsibility at that time was to support the Army division, which was one of the forces taking part in the exercises. Whenever we have exercises, we mark them as red and blue forces, and then you fight with each other, almost create a real wartime scenario.
Right.
So my divisional air defense center with the radar was attached to the division headquarters there, and the general rule at that time was that whenever an aeroplane goes on a strike mission, you do not contact him because you maintain radio telephonic silence. You do not expose him by talking to him because your conversation can be picked up by the enemy.
Right.
So the general instruction was that one shouldn't, you should never get in touch, try to find out why that aircraft is going out, because these are all missions planned on the ground, strategically planned. However, at night, it was a total dark night, and at about 11:30 at night, I saw an aircraft going. I picked up an aircraft on my radar, and the instructions were clear not to find out anything. Only on its way back, you retrieve him back to his base to make him safely land. But somehow, some kind of an intuition told me that this aeroplane was not going in the right direction. It was a fighter plane, and it was not going in the correct direction. And against all the orders that were passed on to me, I rang up the command headquarters and asked them as to, and as was expected, they were very annoyed and said, "Sorry, you are not supposed to ask, and why are you asking this question?" So because it could be that that aircraft was routing that way, for a surprise, it could be going some other direction, then coming. It was not known to me.
Okay.
But I insisted. Somehow some intuition told me that it was not okay. So I kept saying, and then they conceded, and then they switched on all the radars in the local area. And what I had suspected, that there was an aircraft going in the wrong area, was confirmed, because the pilot, we have certain methods of identifying an aeroplane by giving him some turns and things like that to recognize him on the radar and place him correctly.
Okay.
And it was found that his compass and his radio compass were both not serviceable. And if he had continued in that state, after a little while, he would be turning back also without any guidance, and he wouldn't be turning towards his base. He would be turning in some other direction. And of course, the possibility of going short on fuel and a lot of consequences could have happened. So this aircraft was recovered back very quickly. I mean, that is what happened. And the worst scenario would have been that he would not make it back to his base because his compass was not working, and without radar assistance, he could not have got back. And
Right.
That assistance came in timely. And
Right.
I am still not very sure why I did what I did, but and I received a good show from the flight safety
Yes.
at that time,
Correct.
commending that that decision was right.
Right. And was there a danger at any time that the aircraft would have strayed into another country, for example?
Yeah, because it was in the borders. If you see, we were in the deserts, we were in the borders in the western sector.
Right.
If an aircraft is, he doesn't know that his compass is not working. So he would not know which, he would be thinking that he's steering a particular course, but either it will end up in a very difficult situation. It could stray into any place.
Right. And nighttime and no visual indicator?
No ground reference, nothing, is entirely dependent on his planning of how he planned this flight, number of minutes he would fly in a particular direction, what height he would fly, where he would turn back and things like that.
Okay.
So his turn, it was very critical, yes.
And this was a Sukhoi?
It was a MiG. It's a MiG-21.
Oh, MiG-21. Okay. So in comparison to fighter aircrafts, how slow are the civilian aircrafts actually? Because fighter aircrafts are much, much faster, I would reckon.
It is not just the speed. There are a lot of factors which go into a fighter aeroplane. And there are a lot of compromises also which have to be made in a fighter aeroplane because of the speed and the maneuverability that is required. It cannot be the load that it can carry, the weapons it can carry, the platforms that it has, the fuel that it can carry. All that is, they become limitations. So you can't say the speed, what is more important, whether the speed or the range or, there is a mix and match of various things depending on the role in which the aeroplane is to be used. There are various roles. There's the interceptors, there are strike missions, there are, all kinds of roles are assigned to an aeroplane for which typically that is how it will carry its weapons. That's how it will carry its fuel.
Right. Yeah. So I was asking more in terms of you in the air traffic control having the reaction time to react to a particular situation.
See, there are two types of controllers in the Air Force. One is an air traffic controller who controls the aeroplanes from the aerodrome zone, that is around 20 nautical miles around the airfield.
Okay.
He controls all the traffic overhead and airfield. He clears aeroplanes to take off, land, and things like that. And the runway is, that the runway is suitable, runway is maintained properly. All that is air traffic controller's responsibility. I was a fighter controller whose responsibility is when he is beyond the aerodrome zone, most of the time, when he is in touch with me, to ensure that he gets into a combat in an advantageous position so that he can shoot down the enemy. That's the role of a fighter controller.
Okay.
They're very two distinct different roles. I have no responsibility as far as an air traffic controller, the base is concerned. My responsibility is beyond the base. When he is in contact with me, it is my responsibility to, as a fighter controller, to place him. In the recent Balakot strike which happened, and that Wing Commander Abhinandan's case, all the time they were under the radar control. And in fact, one of the lady officers, she got an award also, a Youth Seva medal, for controlling these aeroplanes in a very effective manner. As the first time.
Okay, so you are actually the ears and eyes of the pilot even beyond the radar, because you'll be also tracking the enemy aircraft also, right?
Absolutely. We have the current air picture in our operations room, and then it's a teamwork. It's not just one person. It's a number of controllers sitting together, and they have their individual responsibility. Somebody is an identification officer, somebody is something else like that. And one of them will be actively controlling the aeroplane. The pilot, in direct conversation with the pilot. And the pilot, actually, when he takes off, it is very difficult for him to, you have to continuously feed him the information about the enemy, target information as to where the target, so that he can position himself. And once you place him in a particular place, thereafter it is entirely his skills, how to get behind and shoot him.
Okay, those so-called dog fights.
Yeah, that is entirely his skill, and our pilots are the world's best. There is no doubt about it, because they practice during the peacetime. They are very highly skilled pilots.
Okay, And
there is a very good coordination between the controller and the pilot. Very excellent rapport and coordination between the controller and the pilot. The pilot understands the controller's capabilities and he trusts him entirely. And it's a mutual trust.
Right. It's, I mean, it's not wanting to demean anything, but it's almost like a dog and a handler.
Yeah. No, but they have, see, it's only the initially controller. You can't overplay any particular person's role or underplay any person's role. Yeah, but
that is true.
he's all by himself in the aeroplane, and our duty is to show him the enemy and place him in an advantageous position, or at least not place him in a disadvantageous position. And thereafter, then he takes charge, and then it's all his skills, all the training that he has gone through.
Right.
And it's a very tough thing for a pilot to be flying a fighter plane and getting into all kinds of hard maneuvers.
Right. And you also have to have spatial intelligence, right? You need the left, right, up and down, altitude and everything.
They are trained. They are trained, and I have seen this, having worked in this environment. They are so passionate about their job and about the flying skills that they will do everything possible to ensure that their flying skills are current, updated, they're medically fit, they're mentally alert. So it's a lot of things that go into a pilot's, that one sortie of flying when he is in a real-time situation. At that time, a lot of factors which he has been groomed into come into play.
Right. Because it's probably microseconds, right? Reaction time.
Absolutely. Split second. He can't even blink his eye, because once he has taken a visual contact with an enemy, if he blinks his eye, he has lost him again. So they are trained, and they do a wonderful job out of it.
Right. Now, I actually wanted to talk to you more about this recent unfortunate accident at Karipur, Calicut Airport.
Yes.
And, I wanted to know from your viewpoint whether this was avoidable.
Now we can talk in hindsight, and in hindsight, always we are wiser, because at that point, I would like to exactly what I said about a fighter pilot. The captain of an aeroplane, at a particular decision-making point, he bases his decision on the kind of training that he has had, the kind of experience that he has, and the kind of similar experience that he has had on such handling of such situations, his skill, etc. So I believe that he has done his best. Nobody can fault him for what he did, but we can always say that there could have been better ways of doing or things like that. So in this particular devastating accident, where my heart goes out to the people who have lost the families of the people who have lost their lives, and a large number of injured people, some of them still very critical, etc. See, the 2-3 important things which come to my mind are, one is, I'm not a pilot, but I'm a fighter controller. So I want to speak from a purely non-pilot point of view.
Sure.
2-3 good things, static things which are indisputable are: the runway is a tabletop runway. It is a runway which is adequate for a Boeing 737-800 landing. Even wide-bodied aircraft land there. Almost 25 wide-bodied aircraft used to land there prior to COVID-19. Now the domestic flights are all stopped. And this happened to be a Vande Bharat special mission for bringing the stranded people in, tourists and all, who were stranded in the Gulf area. And there were the runway is adequate for the aircraft. Secondly, there was a heavy downpour of rain during the time when this aeroplane came in for a landing.
You mean just a microburst?
It was heavy rains, and followed by, and also there were low clouds. Low clouds is always a bad thing because it affects the visibility.
Correct.
So what happened actually, to my mind, is that the pilot made the runway in use was 28. Based on the magnetic direction, the runway has two ends, 10 and 28. So he was landing from 28 because you always land and take off against the direction of the wind.
Headwind.
So he had headwinds, and he was coming in for a landing, and there is a particular height at which he has to take a decision whether he can make it to the runway safely or not. And that is approximately around 265 to 85 feet above the ground level.
Okay.
based on the instrument landing system through which he was being guided.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he was at 265 feet, he probably did not sight the runway lights. So as a result, he decided to go around. So he pulled up again, probably to around 7,000 feet. He must have pulled up. He must have asked the air traffic control permission to approach the runway from the other side, 10 side, thinking that the clouding may be on the 28 side. So maybe better visibility will be there on the 10 side. Though he would get tailwinds there. Tailwinds up to 10 knots is acceptable, but beyond that, usually they say 10 to 12 knots, okay, but after that, it is not acceptable.
But with the conditions, given conditions of so much of rain and it was everybody knew that the runway is slippery, but then using tailwind to land on such a
yes.
So
he must have thought that with his experience and things like that, it was okay for him to come in for a landing there. And if he can sight the runway, that would be good. He was already there. And we do not know what is his fuel state and things like that. Those things will be known only after the inquiry is done. Right. So he made an approach from the other side, and he probably saw the runway. He must have seen the runway, and then he came in for a landing. But he certainly seems to have touched well beyond the threshold touchdown point, thereby losing about 1,000 or 1,500, 2,000. We're not sure at about feet of runway out of a total of 8,858 feet. So a very precious bit of that runway behind you is of no use. So yes, come in for a landing there, and then there is a peculiar phenomena called aquaplaning. When the runway is completely waterlogged, it forms sort of a film over the runway, and it comes in between the tires and the hard surface. So you tend to glide, you tend to float, and that does not help in effective braking.
No, even if the wheels are locked, it will still continue to slide.
It will continue to slide because of the water. It is completely waterlogged. A film of water has been formed over the runway. And also it is rumored, nobody is saying for sure, that these rubber deposits are also there on both ends of the runway, which are not being removed. It is very much in the news internet. I have absolutely no idea whether that is right or wrong. But I presume it may not be right, because the runways are also maintained by the air traffic control people. They would be probably cleaning it up. If that was there, if rubber deposit, that aggravates the problem it reduces the friction, and then the aircraft cannot land. So apparently he has overshot. And at both ends of the runway, you have what is known as RESA, runway and safety area, which, as per the International Civil Aviation Organization, you are supposed to have at least between 90 to 240 meters. The recommended is 240, provided land, etc., are available in that area and either end. Everywhere the luxury of land may not be there. So if it is available, so at least 60 meters is the mandatory, which we had. But beyond that, it is just a gorge of a fall of 35 feet or so, as they say. And the aeroplane seems to have not stopped. And it has viciously gone into that slope and hit the boundary or wall or whatever it is. And the brunt of it has been taken by the cockpit, because that's the front portion. And that's how both the captain and the co-pilot, unfortunately, had to lose their lives. A very experienced pilot, former Air Force pilot, a test pilot, who's had a brilliant career. And I really cannot think of faulting his judgment, because he must have taken various factors into consideration and done whatever is the best at that point in time.
Right. I mean, that goes to my earlier question about asking about the relative speeds of commercial aircraft and fighter jets. This was one of the reasons, because his reactions would have been really, really much faster than what is required for a 737. And this, I think, was at 800 series. So, so that is why I asked you that earlier question of...
So landing speeds, I think this aircraft has a landing speed of about 175 kilometers per hour. I'm not very, very sure, but I think it is around that is the landing speed of this aeroplane. So the fighter planes is much smaller. It's not so heavy. It's not so heavy.
So inertia is not there.
And I think in this kind of conditions, I don't think fighter flying will take place at all. In this such a severe, I have not seen such severe bad weather and the fighter flying during peacetime. No such operations will take place.
Right. My other question to you is, okay, the captain is about 7,000, 8,000 feet up in the air, and he has to take decisions from there. Yeah, he did. But ATC controllers on the ground know exactly what is going on the ground.
Yes.
So why is that the airport was not closed, or why is that no, it was not asked? Why wasn't the aircraft diverted to another alternate airport? I think Coimbatore is close by, Kochi is close by.
Kochi and Kannur are close by, and definitely the aircraft could have diverted to that place. But and there were only 120 kilometers distance or something like that, which
Correct.
was a wise thing to do. But this is now something for the court of inquiry to actually go into. But as just as a discussion, we can say diversion should have happened even after the first approach. He should not have made a second approach on 10 itself. He could have as well diverted to that place. What the pressures on him for not diverting? Personally, I feel maybe because these passengers are desperate to reach home, they were all coming after a long layoff, and these things probably played in his mind and said, let me land in the same place, at least they'll go home.
Mm. Yeah, but like a surgeon or like any other person whose other lives are dependent on you,
Yes.
you have to remove that.
Yes, absolutely. There is no scope for such emotions. That time but we don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. I know exactly. We don't know. Even me as you as an expert, if you say you don't know, then how much little I will know. So
we don't know what was playing in the mind of the captain at that time. So
right.
we will have to really wait for the inquiry to come. See, these are all, there are a lot of stories which are going around, lot of inferences which are going on. Somebody said the landing gear was not come down. All this is premature to say anything.
Yeah.
Fortunately, both the CVR, the cockpit voice recorder, and the FDR, both have been found, and they have already been sent to Delhi for analysis.
Right.
They will give out the true picture because the FDR will have everything.
So how much of historical data will be there? The last half hour, last 1 hour, or the entire?
Yeah, everything will be there. On the entire flight data will be there on the guidance range. Everything will be there.
Oh, okay.
It will have a visual, what was visually available to the pilot. Everything will be there.
Right. And here at this point, I want to tell you. I mean, I'm just telling the listeners that the flight data record, or the black box as they call it, is not really black in color, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It is known as a black box.
Yeah. It's bright orange.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that is, orange is easy to identify.
Correct. So these were the questions I had, because as a layman, I mean, you would think, well, I have little experience in aviation as a traffic assistant for an airline.
Yeah.
So I have interacted with pilots, and I'm also quite keen on doing all this. But basically, we have seen that when you had problems like this, the first thing they do is close the airport.
Yes.
And tell everybody to go away. So I was wondering why it was not done. So
see, in this very clearly, a wet runway, low visibility, and low clouds. This combination of these factors should not have permitted the aircraft to land.
And a full complement of passengers also.
And full loaded aircraft.
Loaded aircraft. So thank you very much for answering all my questions, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much. It is indeed a very pleasure speaking to you, Nandu.
Okay, bye.